What's up, guys? It's Will back again, and today we're here to discuss The Suicide Squad, the sort of somewhat of a sequel to the 2016 film Suicide Squad, except this time, The Suicide Squad was written and directed by James Gunn, and follows a mostly new cast of characters on a dangerous new mission. It's also called The Suicide Squad instead of Suicide Squad, so it's different. The Suicide Squad, though, nonetheless, was one of my most anticipated films of this year because, despite me not loving every trailer that was released and definitely not loving the original, I always maintained faith that it would be good because I have a lot of trust in what James Gunn is able to produce as a filmmaker. He has a great track record of really good films. He's more than proved himself, mostly in the superhero genre, in my opinion, with Guardians 1 and 2. And I was excited to see what he could do with a little more creative freedom. Well, he absolutely proved why he's a powerhouse filmmaker. I mean, The Suicide Squad is pretty much everything we as fans wanted it to be, and it greatly improves on the disappointing original in every way possible. One of the most important things that James Gunn has done here is that he built compelling characters. Every character has something that motivates their actions, and many of them have sort of a backstory that's explored that at least partially explains why they become the person they have. You don't expect to get as attached to these characters because, the film is called Suicide Squad, but James Gunn's writing combined with the awesome performances makes these characters so lovable in the oddest kind of way. They feel either over the top crazy or naturally human. There's flaws to them that are actually understandable, relatable even for most of them, and that makes for engaging character that audiences can invest in and root for, despite their flawed nature. The main character is Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, and guys, he is outstanding. With each new piece of information, you understand more about his character and what's truly important to him along the way. I love everything about how this character is written and performed, and I sincerely hope we see more of Idris Elba in the DCEU moving forward. King Shark was probably my second favorite character. He's dumb as hell, but lovable despite the fact that he tries to eat so many different people at one point in the film. It's just hilarious and crazy. The character's just an amazing amount of fun, that's what I'm trying to say. And I also loved Harley for that matter, because everyone really likes Harley, but I do want to caution viewers who haven't seen the film to not expect this to be like a Harley Quinn, center stage type of film. She has her moments to shine, and, she is great, but she's not the primary focus. Still though, she's great, like I mentioned, and is very charismatic per usual. Something else Suicide Squad gets right is the comedy. This is one of the funniest comic book films I've ever seen. I mean, James Gunn does an excellent job with dark humor. He takes events that really shouldn't be all that funny and makes them funny with how the characters react to them. This again makes the characters endearing, despite the fact that they're violent villains, doing bad things for good reasons. There's also a lot of clever dialogue in this film that allows for levity in a story that would otherwise lack it and, come across as too dark and full of itself. So the Suicide Squad really has no problem with making fun of itself and everyone else within it, and it does help balance out the darker tones to make the experience digestible and well-rounded. That said, this is not a film everyone will enjoy. It's very violent, more so than I expected. It's, pretty much like The Boys, if you've seen that, unfiltered violence that can occasionally be comical, with how over the top it is. It works though because it's consistent throughout the film, and it's a trait that just is very different than much of the superhero genre. I also liked how the story was ordered. In general, I tend to prefer my films with linear storytelling, but what James Gunn did here, with the occasional periods of, having the story jump around from timeline to timeline to connect all the parts, it works because each individual story feels like it coalesces into the larger overall narrative very fluidly. You don't feel like you're aimlessly jumping to point in time, with any void of logic. There's actually a method to the madness, and it really does pull you in. One thing that also helps is that this film really does have a lot of heart. There's actual depth to the characters, mostly Bloodsport and Ratcatcher, and it leads to a very satisfying conclusion because of it, a satisfying emotional conclusion. There's growth, there's evolution, and honestly, I really think that all of these characters are fantastic in one way or another, but Bloodsport is particularly incredible in terms of character development. I'm really hoping Hot Toys, makes him and some other characters because, Bloodsport in particular would be an immediate pre-order for me. He's got serious depth to him, and he's flawed in really, like I mentioned, the most compelling of ways. There's a satisfying payoff to his character arc here, as there are for really several of the characters, and the credit for that goes again to James Gunn and the actors involved. Idris Elba is an incredible actor, and I can't wait to see more of him in this universe, and really that goes for the rest of the characters as well. There's only one criticism I have of Suicide Squad, and it's a bit minor because of how well the film ultimately comes together. The second act lost me just a little bit. There's this period where the Suicide Squad was headed towards their mission, where I felt like there wasn't a lot of meaningful progression happening. I didn't find myself overly connected to the characters yet, and I started to become a little bit worried at this point. Then near the tail end of the second act and headed into the third, everything started clicking. You know, everything started to feel like the film was coming together, and it makes the experience feel uniform. That said, I can't deny that the film slowed down just a little bit for me during the second act, and I wasn't enamored with it as I was, you know, the rest of the film. Still, the Suicide Squad was fantastic, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. As for the pros cons, for the pros, the Suicide Squad delivers incredible characters, lots of heart, a great balance of comedy and drama, and tons of over-the-top action that's fun. As for the cons, I'd say the second act slows down just a tad bit for me, but that's a small criticism in the long run. I'm going to give the Suicide Squad a 9.5 out of 10 and highly recommend you check it out if you enjoy superhero content and if you can handle the gratuitous violence. If so, this one is a must watch. So did you guys see the Suicide Squad? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. It was really nice to be back in the theater again, so I'm really hoping that things don't shut down and go backwards, but I guess only time will tell. For all my collector brethren out there, I do want to say that I'm really excited to hear what you guys think about this. If you have seen the film, you know, let me know which figures you'd like to see from this line. I think I'd really only need a Bloodsport, a King Shark, and maybe a Harley, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that because I think there's a lot of compelling characters in this film and a lot that, you know, Hot Toys and other companies can make, but I guess only time will tell. Either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. I will see you in the next review.